Ho ho ho! Welcome back to Lost Legacies for our special second annual Lost Legacies Christmas smorgasbord event. We need a title for this, Sam.
We do need a title for this.
My Spotify playlist is Matt's Holiday Ho 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 Hoedown.
I feel like that's one ho's too many. It should just be Ho Ho Hoedown.
That's a good point. Maybe This is our Lost Legacies Ho Ho Hoedown.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that. That.
As always, I'm Matt, and I'm joined by
Me, Sam.
This is
His
true,
brother.
We wanted to get on, do a special episode before the year ends, and it's kind of weird because last year we talked about all the Christmas things ever. Like we don't really have anything Christmas to talk about this time.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to be talking, like, kind of summing up everything of the year, and we're going to probably do our favorite shows of the year. We have that prepared. So yeah. I mean, I don't. Sam, have you watched any Christmas stuff so far this year?
A couple of things. We put up so we got a new cat. A little kitten named Milkshake, and we were gonna put up a tree, but she's kitten, she's only a couple months old, and so I'm just kind of like, I don't want to have to deal with like her climbing into the tree, eating the fake stuff or whatever. So what we decided was we just put up a Christmas garland in the shape of a tree on our wall, and then we put lights on it. We put some ornaments on that, and so far that's worked. It's pretty high up, and our cats will just stare at it, and they just look at it. They have no inclination to like try and knock anything off of it. So that looks like it's working out. But yeah, when we were doing that, we just put on some Christmas movies. Watched Home Alone, the first one. I found out that my wife Kat does not enjoy the second one as much, which I think the second one is better.
Oh, me too. I think it's far superior. What was her reasoning?
I don't know. I think she said something along the lines of like they don't learn anything from the first movie, and so everybody's just mean to Kevin again. I'm like, yeah, that's true. It's kind of just the same movie, except you just swap out being left at home for being lost in New York City. So I'm like, that's fine.
The plot's exactly the same. It's just it takes place in New York. Yeah. And the traps are bigger and more deadly.
Yeah. It is a little bit more mean-spirited, but my take on that is that the two guys, they explicitly say in the movie that they've been planning, finding, and killing Kevin for over a year. And when you have two guys on screen saying that they've plotted out for 365 days how they're going to murder a child, I don't care how mean-spirited the traps are. They deserve everything they get coming to them.
Yeah. And also, I don't know, man, maybe it's just New York City. Like the second one seems more magical to me.
Yeah, I think New York City has at least, like, I've never lived there, only been a tourist, but at least for me, New York City is like, that's the city I imagine at Christmas time. It's like I imagine being bundled up, it's snowing everywhere, there's lights everywhere. Like that's what I imagine, and the first thing I imagine is Home Alone 2. Kevin goes to the giant tree. That's what Christmas looks like to me. So
yeah. Who else that looks like Christmas for? Hawkeye.
Oh,
we're only a couple episodes into Hawkeye right now, but I love New York, and I love New York at Christmas, so it's really cool. Now they did film some of this in New York. I don't think they filmed all of it. They probably filmed the rest in Georgia, like all the MCU stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's just cool to actually see them in Georgia. I'm sorry, not in Georgia, in New York. Like real New York. at least for parts of it, you know.
For a couple of scenes, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and you know, just a little, I guess, heads up. Hawkeye is not on my favorite shows of the year list, but also it's not finished yet. We're only a couple episodes in.
Yeah.
So as of recording this, so
yeah.
Did you hear that?
No.
Oh, Sam. Look who it is. Ho, 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 ho.
Santa.
I'm back. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas to all, and especially you two. I just wanted to come and visit my favorite podcast.
Wow, thank you, Santa.
Yeah,
that
thanks,
really
Santa.
means a lot.
Of course, anytime. I know it's been a hard year, and Lost Season 2 was a very hard show to watch. So I want to ask, Matthew, Samuel, what do you want for Christmas? Sam, why don't you take this one first?
You know, I've thought about what I would ask for if Santa ever came down personally to me and asked me to my face what I wanted for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, outside of like world peace and
Yes.
you know, all that good stuff, I would just like Santa, more than anything, I would just like some time to myself to read and finish a damn book.
Oh, yes. And you? How about you? That's a tough one, Santa. I know, but yeah, there must be something you want. Yeah, there must be. Kind of what Sam said. I don't know. World peace, of course. I guess second best would be a PS5. I'll get working on that world peace. Well, I just wanted to say hi, and I just wanted to tell everyone, both you two and the listeners, hold your loved ones tight, cherish them. It's been a hell of a few years, and it might be a hell of a few more. But just remember what's important, and that's family, whether it's inherited, born into, or found. Keep your loved ones and your family close, especially the little pets as well. They often get forgotten this time of year. So goodwill to all, and I'll see you in a few nights, but you won't see me. Not in a creepy way. Just leave me your milk and cookies, or if you're in South Texas, Coke and tamales. Good night, and Merry Christmas to all. He just went out the window.
Oh, wow.
All right, well, I mean, I think it's official. I think we could get the episode started now.
Yeah. Roll credits.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our little Christmas theme song, which I'm sure I will find by the time I'm editing this.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas talk. Anything else? Oh yeah. I was gonna say the only Christmas thing I've watched right now is While You Were Sleeping. Classic, man. Classic. 5 stars. If you haven't watched While You Were Sleeping, it's one of the best romantic comedies of all time, starring none other than Sandra Speed in Speed 2 Cruise Control Bullock. This had to have been after Speed, right?
Yeah,
because like she was pretty like young and fresh to like Hollywood and Speed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she was already kind of more of a name in While You're Sleeping.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's Sandra Bullock and Bill Independence Day Pullman. And yeah, it's a great holiday movie, great family movie. It's funny. And literally no scene goes to waste. I was texting Sam this the other day. If you want to learn how to write an action movie, a horror movie, a thriller movie, you have to watch While You Were Sleeping. Because it's not any of those, but it's kind of the same format. It's the same formula, kind of how we've discussed before, how there's a lot of things connected between like horror and action or horror and comedy. It's the same thing, you know. You need to keep your audience invested. You need to keep you need to know when to hit those peaks and valleys as far as like the heart rate, you know. Okay, when do you excite them, when do you let them rest, stuff like that. And I feel like this movie does it perfectly. Not a scene is wasted, not a single line is wasted. Everything moves the plot forward, and Annie, played by Sandra Bullock, gets deeper and deeper into the situation, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend everyone check it out.
I agree. Also, just, you know, for any pedantic people, Speed came out in 1994. While You Were Sleeping came out in 1995.
Oh.
And Speed 2 Cruise Control wouldn't come out until 3 years later in 97.
Oh, if only we could go back in time, tell Sandra Bullock not to do the sequel. Wait, where's Santa? Santa!
That's what I want for Christmas.
Man, if Keanu came back for the second one, it would have been good.
Did you hear recently he said in an interview, they asked him, he said like he would have come back, but he said like it's Speed, but on a boat. And that was it. That's why he didn't come back.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
God, love that Keanu Reeves. I hope Keanu Reeves has a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, me too. Speaking of which, man, Matrix
and Sandra Bullock as well.
And Sandra Bullock. Yeah. Oh, she has a new movie out.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix flick. Unforgiven.
The Unforgivable.
The Unforgivable. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Awesome. Yeah, well, good for them. I hope they have Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Keanu will for sure with the Matrix Resurrections coming out in a few days. It's interesting. It's going to be right after the Spider-Man movie. So
I know. It's like, this year's been so weird with like movie releases because like
they keep getting pushed back and stuff. So they're all bunched together now.
Yeah. Well, like we hardly got anything last year. And then, stuff kept getting pushed back and stuff. And then it just feels like right at the end of the year, it's like, oh, hey, by the way, we're going to drop like 5 major tentpole movies within like 8 weeks. I'm like,
yeah.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
I still haven't been to the movie theater since this all started. I might have to go for Spider-Man because I want to see Spider-Man before anything gets spoiled. Which as of today, as of recording this, we only have a few days left till 2 days till Spider-Man comes out. But actually, there's already spoilers online because like it's already premiered in certain places. So
I think early screenings start Thursday. So
stay off of the Twitters unless you're asking us a question at hashtag Lost Legacies.
But only Lost related questions and anything not having to do with Spider-Man, because if you spoil Spider-Man No Way Home in your question,
you will be
Lost
blocked.
Legacies.
No question. Instant block.
Yeah, instant block. Unforgivable.
So that, and is Matrix gonna be on HBO Max?
Ooh,
I think it is.
That's a good question. I think it might be. Yeah, it might be.
I feel like I should see that in the theaters, but
yeah,
it's gonna drop right before Christmas. Like we're working, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
we're working all the way up till Christmas, so I don't know.
Yeah. We'll find out. We'll see.
No. Okay. So why don't we get into this list? We've been talking about making a list of our top shows. We each came up with 10, but then realized we talk a lot, so we cut that down in half. So
hopefully that does something.
Hopefully, it shortens the episode or something. We'll see. I'm pretty sure I'll post my full top 10 list on the socials probably after Christmas, like after the episode airs, or this episode airs, and after Christmas. And here's the thing, because we're big fans of The Expanse. The Expanse is still on right now, and I don't think it's going to end this month. It's going to end in January.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they're only doing one episode a week.
Weekly.
And the first episode dropped last week. So
yeah, so that can't make it on the list. However, season 5 might be on one of our lists. So, Witcher. I mean, technically, The Witcher could end up on the list, but as of recording this, it hasn't dropped yet. So I might end up adding that on the social medias. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's what you get, Netflix and Amazon, for releasing your shows so late in the year. You don't get the Lost Legacies Christmas Appreciation Awards. All right. Well, how do you want to do this? Do you want to go first? Do I want to go first?
Well, yeah. I guess we should do like honorable mentions, right?
Yeah. So we each have one honorable mention, and then we're going to do a top 5 list. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So this is my honorable mention only because I still haven't finished it.
Oh, already breaking the rules.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. Well, see, because that's the thing. Like, the difference between you and I, Matt, is that you watch a lot more TV than I do. I watch a lot of movies. Yeah, I watch a lot of movies. So like, I have a working list right now of like all the new movies from this year that I saw ranked. Yeah. And of course, incomplete until the end of the year once I see a bunch of other stuff, maybe even extending into January. Hey, I got to catch up. If I don't see Matrix like before the end of the year, I'm still gonna count it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll do that in January. We'll just do like a little 5-10 minute episode. We're like, hey, what was our top 10 list? Or top 5 list? Yeah. I maybe watched 10 movies this whole year. I don't think I did.
Yeah, I think you did. Well, if you watch No Way Home and Matrix, there you go. 2 more to the list. But yeah, so technically it's just because I haven't finished it yet, and it's just because watching other things, get involved with other stuff, work, all that stuff. But shout out to Netflix's brand new cherry flavor, because that show, incredible. It's awesome. It stars Rosa Salazar, and it takes place in like 1990s LA. She's, this like up and coming indie director who's about to get like her first major kind of like motion picture deal. And then she instantly gets like screwed out of directing it. Her essentially, they're going to take her movie that she made. They're going to make it into a bigger budget film. And she gets screwed out of it. She doesn't have control over anything. And essentially it's her sort of getting back at the producer who stole her, essentially like her life's work. And she engages in some, like some weird magic, some brujeria, and some crazy proceedings, start to happen. It's a little, it does feel a little bit David Lynch inspired. And I don't say that, lightly, because I know that's a term that people like to throw around, like, oh, it's very Lynchian and all that stuff. And it's like, no, like this definitely does have a lot of the stylings. It feels like it would fit right at home, next to like Mulholland Drive or an episode of Twin Peaks, with also a little bit of David Cronenberg body horror thrown in. So it's really cool. Like it's really cool. I think it's a really cool show. It's a really cool concept. I just couldn't tell you why. I just haven't finished it yet, but I'm definitely going to finish it, hopefully before the end of the year. If not, I'll just restart it and finish it then. So, but yeah, that's my Shout
Nice. Okay. Sounds too scary for me.
out. I think you like it.
Which
I really do.
gets me to my honorable mention, Shadow and Bone.
Ooh, yeah,
Shadow
that's right.
and Bone is a Netflix original. It's based off of a YA novel. It's a YA series. We could call it a franchise, I guess. Now I don't know, because it's one book series, and then there's also like side books. There's a prequel. There's another story that kind of it's another group of people that takes place to the side of the main one. But you know that's all the books. So it's this whole like universe they've created. Netflix did a phenomenal job adapting it to the screen. I never read it. From what I've heard, the show is a lot better than the book.
Oh, interesting.
Which is always, it's kind of rare to hear, you know, that the adaptation is better. But yeah, I mean, it's this fantasy world where there's some kind of like something's happened and you don't really know what it is at first. Some kind of event happens and it splits the continent in two with this big shadowy blackness. And this has caused like a war between, essentially this continent is now broken up into two nations. One is on each side of this black smog and they're fighting. But the only way to get to each other is through this black smoke, which is kind of lostish if you think about it. But there's like tons of like creepy monsters and stuff inside of it. So it's really crazy. And it is a magical world. I kind of magic light, but I don't know if that's just Netflix's budget. I don't know. But it's like, it doesn't seem like it's everywhere because there is one group, like this one kind of organization that takes all the magical people and they enlist. It's like a military unit, you know, so they're not part of the military, but they work with the military, stuff like that. But yeah, it's amazing. Of course, it's one of those tropes, like a chosen one trope. It's this main girl who finds out she has a certain ability and she's the only one who has this ability.
Interesting.
So everyone's magic, you know, they have like, you know, you have the fire magic people, you have other magic. I don't know. It kind of Avatar-ish, you know, you have everyone kind of broken up into groups like that. But this one girl, she's the only one who has this particular type of magic. And it's may or may not be foretold that she's going to bring the black wall down. And it starts off this incredible adventure. Most of the cast I've never seen before. Ben Barnes is like the antagonist, and he's really good as an antagonist in this. Like he's scary. But yeah, there's just I wish I had like the cast list because it's so diverse. Everyone is good. I think the romance is it does such a good job of doing like the best friends to lovers. Will they, won't they dance? It does it fantastically. There's a character who it's heavily implied, especially through the fandom, that he's asexual, and it's done really well, which I have yet to really see in TV and movies, you know, that kind of character. But yeah, like there's so much I want to say, but I can't really talk about it much because everything is like a twist. Like you just have to dive in and then just take the ride. Just ride the ride, man. It's a great one.
Well, who knows? Maybe by season 14 of Lost Legacies, we'll get to talk about Shadow and Bone on Netflix.
Right, exactly. So yeah, casting, music, set design, costumes, everything. I haven't seen Wheel of Time or anything like that, but just the quality of this show looks to be on par, if not better, than that. You know,
Okay.
So. But we'll see. And the only reason it's an honorable mention is because there was a lot of really good TV this year. But yeah, when I was watching it, like I couldn't get enough of it. So yeah, that's my honorable mention. Shadow and Bone. Go check it out.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, now it's on to the top 5.
Top 5s.
What do you got? So yeah, I kind of struggled. With the list. I don't even know if I watched 10 shows this year, so I probably won't maybe making a top 10 shows of the year list, but I do have my top 5. And all I got to say is this: for the next couple of picks, Marvel really dominated this year. Absolutely, yeah. Just it was it more so than I think the year Avengers Endgame came out. This was Marvel's year.
I think part of it is because COVID. Because
absolutely,
last year we were supposed to get Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision. So instead of this year, so we have 6 Marvel shows this year.
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's crazy. And that brings me to my number 5 pick, which was Marvel's What If.
Ooh, I will say this is the one that I haven't finished.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I've watched all the other ones, and Hawkeye. We're only like halfway through. But What If is the only one I haven't finished.
Okay, well, thank you for telling me that, because I was just gonna start talking crazy. All right, what was the last episode you watched?
I don't remember.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, we've got to avoid spoilers anyway, so
I guess, yeah. But yeah, so like Marvel's What If, I think it's one of my favorite MCU projects. I think specifically because this was one of the cool things about reading Marvel comics. You know, it's like you have histories. You have like decades of these histories for these characters. You know, that's like, it's pretty set, you know, outside of like some, I don't know, deal making with the devil stuff that just rewrites 50 years of history, whatever. But we don't have that for the movies. We only have like I don't even know, like the last like 13 years or so. But what's cool about this is that it takes those ideas and then recontextualizes it and being like, hey, what would have happened if Peggy Carter took the super soldier serum? You know, what if T'Challa was really Star-Lord? Like, it's all these, you know, just like little like throwaway stuff that then turns into these episodes. And some of them are really good. The T'Challa one was maybe my favorite. The Doctor Strange one just absolutely broke my heart. And it had its ups and downs. It definitely had stuff that I didn't always like. And there were episodes that I was like, man, I really wish that one was better. I think I'm in the minority. I was very disappointed with the Marvel Zombies episode. But yeah, like all that being said, like it was a really cool premise, and it kind of makes me wonder why Marvel doesn't do more animated shows. I feel like they'd absolutely kill it doing more shows in the style of What If. So that's my number 5.
And I was gonna say, right before that show premiered, we kind of had the revelation that like through the movies and through these shows, this next phase of Marvel is dealing with the multiverse. And because of the multiverse, everything in What If is canon.
Yep.
It's just a different universe that may or may not show up in another show or another movie.
Or another movie. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. My number 5 is season 5 of The Expanse.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yep.
That's your number 5?
That's my number 5, man. All right. There's some really good television shows this year.
I am hardcore judging literally everything else that comes after this.
No. So season 5, this was their second season on Amazon, and it's, you know, incredible. I mean, starting with season 4, they had a bigger budget. Just the quality went up. I think season 4, just like the book it was based off, is kind of the outlier in the Expanse series, because it's more of like it's a more consolidated story. You know, instead of like the rest of the series, which is this huge sprawling epic. Season 4, and I think it's book 4. Yeah, there's just like one kind of tiny small story. So it was really nice coming into season 5 where it's like, okay, we're back in it. We're back into action. Space battles, space love, space bullets and stuff. Like I want to avoid spoilers, but it's also hard to really talk about the plot because it's 5 years into the series, you know? But essentially season 5 is kind of the season where it's like, okay, we've been building this up for all these years. It looks like we're finally going to war. And we've seen that a bit between Earth and Mars in this show. Definitely war, definitely fighting. But now they're facing a threat that they quote unquote never saw coming. But again, we've had 5 years to prepare. It's like, yeah, this has been building, in this universe. It's like all the downtrodden misfit people who've been, unjustly living under the boots of Earth and Mars. They're finally fighting back. And I think in our perspective, in a very modern day mindset, that's a good thing. We want to see these people, we want to see the Belters succeed, but they're doing it in a very brutal, violent way.
Yeah.
So it's very heartbreaking. And as an audience member, like, you don't know whose side to take anymore. It's very messy. But this show is incredible. I think it does it a disservice to compare it to Game of Thrones, but there really is no comparison. Like, it's when the show premiered, they nailed it. This is Game of Thrones in space. There's nothing else you can compare it to. It's started as a noir and it's become this huge political intrigue, suspense thriller with war. It is sci-fi, so there might be a little alien brouhaha here and there. And this, with all this, there's still more brewing in the background, in the behind the scenes. Now we're currently in season 6, so we kind of know what's happening. But yeah, season 5 was just, I feel like that was the season where we're like, okay, The Expanse, it's on Amazon Prime. We got a budget. This is what we can really do. So that's my number 5.
Awesome. I agree with all of it. The only thing I disagree with is that it's number 5.
The ranking, yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on. It's my number 4 choice. Now I got to tell you, I got to be honest with you right out the gate. This one's cheating. It's cheating a little bit.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Because I couldn't decide between 2 shows. I just knew that they didn't get into the top 3.
So you got 2 picks for number 4?
I have 2 picks for number 4.
Oh.
My 2 picks for number 4. Tied for 4th place, best show, 4th best show of the year. WandaVision.
Ooh.
And Loki.
Ooh, okay. Ooh,
once again, Marvel just really came out swinging. Like, I wasn't really amped when they announced the shows.
Yeah.
Like, I was actually more excited for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like the actiony, the espionage, the political thriller of it all. I'm like, yeah, like, that's going to be cool. I think in execution, it just didn't, it missed the mark for the top 5, but I still enjoyed that series.
It was a good show. Yeah.
Yeah. But WandaVision, the last thing I expected it to be was just like this, not only, an homage and an ode to, television sitcoms throughout the years, but also just like this deep exploration of pain and loss. And yeah, like, there were episodes where I was like, oh man, that hit, like, this is hard. And also I think part of the fun of WandaVision was going back to like the week to week theorizing. Everybody's on Twitter, it kind of reminded me of, the Lost days where everybody's on message boards like, oh man, like, who's the guy in the beehive suit? Like, what is he
right?
Does she know? Did she just remake the universe? Like, all this stuff. Like, it was so fun to theorize all of these things and to be part of that culture that, like, kind of going back and watching it now, it's like, we were so youthful, we're so innocent. We knew anything that this show was doing. But yeah, everybody knocked it out of the park in terms of like casting, acting. I've still been humming Agatha all along to myself all these months later. It's great.
Yeah. And it those shows are rare where you get like, there's always going to be theories and stuff, but where you really have that week to week, the water cooler shows, everyone's talking about it at work and everywhere you go. And that's something, as much as we go back and watch Lost and discuss it, you're never going to get to experience that, because that's something you have to experience at the moment. Same thing with WandaVision. Someone watching WandaVision now is going to have a different experience because everyone isn't talking about it right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, so that was really fun. And I, like you said, I had a lot of, little flashbacks to the Lost experience with WandaVision. So, yeah. And kind of in the same way, the next show you're talking about.
Yeah, I think to a lesser degree, Loki was also, part of that. I think Loki just kind of took the place of that like water cooler thing. There was far less, at least from what I saw, far less like fan theories going around about all this stuff. Although everybody and their mom was like, it's Mephisto. It's got to be Mephisto doing all the Mephisto stuff. It's like, it's not Mephisto. Stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like Loki kind of took the reins and for a little bit felt like, oh man, like I think America finally got a Doctor Who. Like we finally got like this quote unquote globe-trotting adventure, where we have this aloof character, who like obviously is a backstabber, but it's constantly being reined in, trying to like find the moral ground, his moral ground. And going on these crazy adventures, the episode where they're like stuck on the planet that's gonna be hit by a meteor. Maybe one of the best hours of television I saw this year.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, it was so good. Tom Hiddleston, I'm so glad that Tom Hiddleston is game to do literally whatever with Loki. That like, I almost don't want to see another Loki if he ever decides to tap out. I'm like, no, don't recast. Like he's Loki. Right. That's it. But yeah, like it was such a cool adventure. It was super sci-fi. And yeah, and it just leaves us with, things that will have ramifications in the upcoming shows. Like I'm pretty certain we already have stuff that's like, because like WandaVision does like a really cool thing in its last episode. Loki does a cool thing in its last episode. That's like those two things, those are intrinsically linked. I know they are. And judging by everything that we've seen from the No Way Home trailers, I'm like, this is all linked. They're setting up for something for phase 4.
Right.
And yeah, I'm so excited. And yeah, every episode, I just had so much fun watching.
Oh, dude, totally. I love it. And speaking of crazy people with powers, I get to my number 4, the Nevers. Yeah. Okay. This is kind of breaking a rule because I said, okay, the show just needs to have ended in 2021, that season,
Oh, okay. I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
But this show didn't because of COVID. They only did 6 episodes and then they had to stop production. And it was so long that they aired those 6 episodes this year and they started filming the second 6. I want to say like in September, August.
Oh, wow.
So we're not going to get, so season 1 has been split between 2 years. So we got the first half in 2021. We're going to get the second half in 2022, but they've also already been picked up for season 2, which is 2023. Wow. So
yeah.
But that's just numbers and stuff. But anyway, I mean, the whole thing about the Nevers is it's a show on HBO Max about something happens. You don't really know what it is at first, but there's something occurs on just a regular, average, everyday in Victorian London. Something happens and all these people start getting these abilities. Some might call them powers, but it's not like a superhero show,
Yeah.
But they start getting these abilities. And oddly enough, most people who are the minorities, the disenfranchised. It's mostly women, but there's also men of color. There's also some non-binary people who get powers. And it's really interesting. So you have all these stuffy old British white guys who are like, well, what's happening? We got to control them. And that's essentially like the driving force of the first 6 episodes. Trying to figure out where these powers and abilities are coming from. The story follows these two women who essentially move into like an old orphanage, and they're just taking in all these people with abilities. And in a way, it's kind of like X-Men, you know. It's kind of like, yeah, bring your people, bring your kids, but it's people of all ages with all different kinds of abilities, and they're trying to protect them. And it's just so mind blowing because they're mostly women, so they're already dealing with the issues that women had to deal with back in Victorian London. On top of that, they have bullseyes on their heads because they're demons with powers, you know. Everyone wants to take them out. And it's an incredible show, incredible journey. I will say, trigger warning, the showrunner has officially been canceled.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. So it is weird to watch the show and you see his name plastered all over it. But he is gone by the end of these first 6 episodes. So he is no longer involved with that show production in any way, which is a really good thing because it's an almost all women cast. I mean, not really. There's a lot of men characters, even in the main cast. But if you're just talking numbers, there are so many women in this cast of different backgrounds, of different ethnicities. Same thing behind the scenes. It's awesome. So yeah, and we're not going to mention this guy, this showrunner, his name or anything, but I feel like there's 2 camps who you want to watch because you're a fan of his and the shows he's created, or you don't want to watch because what happens. If you don't want to watch, I say, look, he's gone by the end of this first season. Give it a shot because it's so good. It's some of the best television, especially this last year. And if you are a fan of his or of his stuff, I think you're going to love this because I think this was his best work. And yeah, I mean, I kind of see this show is definitely like Buffy meets Downton Abbey. Like it's so good. It's
interesting.
Yeah, it's just so good. It's so human. All the crazy magic and stuff that's going on, it comes second to the characters, you know. Yeah, I really wish I could do a better job selling this, but there's so many secrets and twists and turns that you learn by the end of the first season. You just have to, again, you got to take the ride. So I highly recommend The Nevers. First 6 episodes are on HBO Max, and then just get ready for next year's season 2 because season 1 ended crazy. It was like minds blown.
Yeah.
So, go check out The Nevers. Also, one of the like coolest, best soundtracks on TV right now.
Nice. Speaking of minds blown, interesting setup to my number 3 show, which blew my mind figuratively, but featured characters who had their minds blown quite literally. That's right, Matt. We're talking about Invincible.
Oh, okay.
See, I had completely forgotten that Invincible came out because this year has felt like 10 years stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
With this and last year. But yeah, dude. Invincible is Amazon Prime original animated series based off of the Robert Kirkman Image comic book that came out decades ago. I think it just finished like 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was fairly recent. Wow. Incredible show. Yeah, it's a send up to both the comic and the show are a send up to those classic like Spider-Man, you know, Justice League cartoons and comics. You know, it's everything that we love about comic books, both the shows, the movies, you know, everything distilled into this one show. And it doesn't shy away from the violence. And that's like, I know that's a thing that, you know, people have been saying like, oh yeah, The Boys does that really cool too, or like this other shit. And it's like, yeah, but the thing about it is that like shows like The Boys, and this isn't to hate on The Boys. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that series. But my only critique that I'll say is that, like, with me, the thing about The Boys is that it takes the idea that, like, oh, what if superheroes were real, and just like it makes it gritty and dark in a way that, like, I don't think it needs to be. And with Invincible, it takes that idea of, like, what if superheroes were real, and just says that, like, no, if superheroes were real, this is what the fights would look like.
Yeah.
This is how the government would respond to having superheroes, and, you know, how sponsored would they be, or like how would we respond to them being, you know, like they would be like a super response team, you know, things like that. And I think that's a much more interesting way, because it takes that idea and then says that, like, no, but we're also going to relate it back to the thing that we love, because we love superheroes. You know, we're not doing this to say that they're all intrinsically bad like that. Yeah,
that's a good point. Like, I haven't seen Invincible. I'm slowly, like, I've tried to watch The Boys over and over, but it's kind of like what you just said. Like, we love superheroes. It feels like The Boys doesn't.
Yeah.
Now that may or may not be wrong. I don't know. But it's just like, I feel like The Boys doesn't add anything to the conversation. It's just like, okay, we're gonna make it dark and gritty for dark and gritty's sake. You know, we're just gonna do this because it's shocking. Now look, there's some fantastic performances in there. I do love a lot of the characters, but I just don't like the story and the world they're setting up. It's just gritty and darkness for gritty and darkness sake.
Yeah.
Whereas what I can tell from Invincible, it seems like, yes, the same, but it's all the good parts of the superheroes too. You know, like The Boys just kind of cut out the main point of why we make superhero stories, why we watch them and consume so many, and really the reason why we're so flooded with superhero content right now. And he said, we don't like that, so we're going to take this like nihilistic approach to it and just make it all suck.
Yeah.
But we're going to add some humor and it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Whereas Invincible's like, no, we're taking the good and bad and we're just going to elevate it and make it rated R.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like, we're presenting you the good and bad, but we're still also giving you the superhero story that you wanted, that you asked for, you know? Yeah. And like, and the cast is all great. You know, I think this is one of my favorite roles from Stephen Yeun. J.K. Simmons is fantastic in it. Yeah, it's just a really cool series. It's really fun. And it does take it does divert a little bit from the comics, but it also remixes it in a way that I think makes more sense for the medium. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about it, is that, like, it's not just actively changing stuff from the comics for the sake of it, unlike other shows. But what it's doing is that, like, it's taking things that aren't going to happen for a little bit and just like setting it up, or it just bumps things up to like, oh yeah, this thematically, it feels better to have this storyline happen at the end of the season, you know, and then we can talk about it from there. I don't know how many seasons this is going to get. They were already greenlit for season 2. So hopefully that comes out next year or sometime soon. But yeah, it's really cool. Highly recommend it. Go watch it. It's a blast, but be warned, it is pretty graphic. It's pretty violent. Yeah.
Well, speaking of dark, gritty realism and violence,
everything we hate. Yeah.
I'm gonna go the opposite direction and talk about my number 3.
All right.
Only Murders in the Building on Hulu.
Okay.
Man, oh man. Who knew that the best team up comedy trio would be Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez? Fan of the show, friend of the show, Selena Gomez.
Friend of the show, Selena Gomez. Heart wants what it wants. We're gonna put that in the episode title, and hopefully
put it in the show
get
notes, and we're gonna get a lot of listeners.
Yeah, we'll get 100 more listeners.
Yeah, man, this is just. I want to say it was 10 episodes. I don't remember. Actually, it might have been more. I don't remember.
It was 10, yeah.
But it's just a fun, adventurous murder mystery. It reminds me of the classic whodunits. Kind of, in a lot of ways, the same ways, Knives Out did. Knives Out was like a modern Agatha Christie. So is Only Murders in the Building, but instead of going the Agatha Christie route, they go the podcasting route.
The true crime podcast route.
The true crime podcasting route. So this is a world right now where everyone's listening to podcasts, and we're listening and or watching to these true crime shows. That's what birthed Only Murders in the Building. Essentially, the plot is Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. They all live in the same building in Manhattan. And they all discover that they're fans of the same murder mystery podcast. So what happens when a dead body shows up in their building? They go investigate and they make a podcast about it. It is so wild. It's like watching a podcast. And if you ever listen to Serial, which really changed the game as far as podcasts go and true crime stuff, it's straight up inspired by Serial. Even the music is just so beautiful and magical. I think this Only Murders in the Building probably has the best score, my top score of the year, even out of movies. Like I love it. It's so intricate, it's so detailed, and there's clues in the score.
What?
Yeah, like it's interesting once you watch the whole show and then you go watch the behind the scenes and you hear the composer talk about it. He's like, yeah, if you listen to the little motifs and the themes, there's clues hidden throughout all the music and when certain music plays.
Wow.
They also have one of the coolest little magical mystery opening credits, which each episode has clues in it. It's just a wild ride, man. It's like you're thrown into this whodunit. I'm just repeating myself now. But yeah, it's a fantastic cast. It's fun. It's just dark enough that you actually are concerned about people getting killed. But mostly it's a fun, wild ride. And they really do some funny stuff. It's Steve Martin's producing, and he's always been a little out there with the way he tells his stories. And kind of, since this is kind of based off a podcast, there's a lot of fourth wall breaking. So there's a lot of narration. There's I don't want to say too much, but like just a little hint, like Martin Short plays kind of like a Broadway director who's fallen from grace.
Oh, interesting.
So when he approaches the case, it cuts to like a theater stage, and he sees all the suspects on stage, and he's like, who would I cast as the murderer? I'm like, dude, that's brilliant, because that's how a Broadway director would view the world. That's how he would view the scene. He would specifically look for clues, and it would be like casting the show. So it's little things like that really make it fun. And they're currently filming season 2, so don't worry.
Awesome.
We will get more of them. But yeah, last thing I'll say is the actual mystery it's incredible. Like, I think they even said the season 2 might not be a mystery. They've teased that because the first one was so locked down tight. It was crazy. Like, it was crazy. Each episode, there's more twists, there's more turns. It was just a damn good murder mystery. Even if you take out all the comedy and the music and the cast and all that stuff, the mystery itself was so cool. So it's just all those things combined. And I think that's what I needed in this pandemic. I needed something fun, something light, but also there was stakes to it.
Yeah.
So that's my number 3. Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. I didn't even know they're still making like good stuff.
Oh yeah, dude. They're making stuff all the time.
Yep.
Well, that's cool. Well, you want to talk about, light, stuff with some stakes. Go in the complete opposite direction for my number 2 pick. It's It's all stakes. Everything's out there. Everything sucks. And this, I think, is the correct placing for your number 5 pick. Yeah, we're talking about season 5 of The Expanse.
What? It's number 2?
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
Dude, hands down, season 5 of The Expanse is the best season of The Expanse.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's the payoff for everything that we've been talking about since the first episode of season 1, you know, and like everything that we've been going through. Yeah, battles with Earth and Mars here and there. And it's like this time, yeah, the Belters finally get theirs, you know, they finally get the throw down in some very big ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just like, it was good to see. It was good to see because, you know, we've been following these characters for so long and they're all split up this season. You know, there's no one character. I know there's one character that gets to like really hang out with like other established characters. But other than that, everybody else is on their own. You know, they're all out doing their own thing. They're trapped in space, you know, they're captured, they're stuck on a planet that's being attacked, you know, it's like all these things. It's like, and there's all these little mysteries that are finally paying off, you know, and we get to see the culmination of, you know, what's essentially been, you know, like 5 seasons worth of buildup and storyline and plotting. And yeah, it's crazy, you know, and it was done so well that like every episode has a hook and has a thing that's like, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about this episode. And it just like, even like the happy parts or the bright parts of this season, it still kind of hurts you because you're like, I don't know if this person's going to make it out. Yeah. If they do, they're not going to be the same person. And every single person that makes it out of season 5 is irrevocably changed by the end, you know. And it's like, yeah, like it's crazy. We finally got some more space battles, you know, which huge proponent of space battles over here. Like you have a sci-fi show, you gotta have some cool space battles.
Some of the best space battles.
Some of the best, dude. I'd put it that I think the final battle in episode 10, I think that finally topped the battle in season 2.
Yeah. Like listeners, look, it is not an understatement when so many people across the board are saying that The Expanse is literally the best science fiction show. Yeah, I just cannot emphasize that enough. I don't think it's going to have as much reach or be change the world as much as Star Trek did. But the reason Star Trek is always seen as like the greatest sci-fi show of all time, it's because of how it affected the world. The Expanse, however, I think is the most socially relevant story, especially sci-fi story right now. And for a while there, we were saying it was Battlestar Galactica, man, because that came out at a perfect time. And that was it wasn't even a dark mirror. That was just a mirror to our world. Yeah. And now The Expanse is very much doing that in very much the same way. Like, yeah, this is our world. And every day another billionaire goes to space. Every day space gets more corporate, you know. Every day some other country pisses another. Like, it's terrifying, but the writers were also very smart and prepared. It's terrifying how every single day our real life is lining up perfectly with The Expanse. Just so y'all know too, if you're just watching this episode and you haven't like been listened to our shows before, The Expanse is based off a series of books, 9 books.
The final book just came out this month.
Right. And like this show, I mean, even got canceled, and there's a huge, like one of the biggest fan movements to bring it back, and it got saved by Amazon. But we're talking about everyone, fans, of course, but then also we're talking about NASA scientists and astronauts, and all these people are coming out and saying how this is the most scientifically accurate show as well, because all the science is there. You know, everything we see in this show, it's possible. And in fact, if we do, I mean, we're already sending people to space more than we were 10 years ago. If we keep on this trajectory, this is what that's going to look like in a few hundred years, for better or worse. And that's why I mean, like, this is a really relevant show. And I think with time, The Expanse is going to become more and more popular, just in the zeitgeist. You know what I mean?
100%.
So you got to check out The Expanse. Yeah, because it's that good. It's that good.
It's that good. It's so good that it's on 2 different spots in both Matt and I's lists. So it's got to be worthwhile.
It was close, man. Like, I wanted to put it higher on my list, but I'm like, I think a lot of it has to do with me as well. Like, again, we're not saying like these are the best shows of the year. These were just our favorites. I think the other shows just hit me a little differently. Like I said, Only Murders in the Building, it was I needed that. I needed something light, but still like able to like mentally throw me through the hoops, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, Sam, you mentioned a show that I mentioned. I'm going to mention a show that you mentioned, because my number 2 pick, Loki.
Okay.
And we've seen some crazy stuff from the MCU, but this was on another level. Like, it really got sci-fi here. I like what you said too, how this kind of feels like the American version of Doctor Who. And it does. One, because it's not a hero. He's a backstabbing trickster. But 2, yeah, I mean, it was adventures through time and space. And I loved it. And I love how they didn't pull punches. You know? Oh, he's gonna save all those people. Oh no, he's not. This is Loki we're talking about. So it's just, it was really good. I'll say this because there's a lot of the reasons why I love this show would be considered spoilers, especially how it pertains to the overall MCU.
Yeah.
So I don't really have that much I can say, but I will say all these shows are based off of characters I never really cared about. I like Wanda, but that's about it. I didn't really care about anyone else. So I'm really impressed by Marvel that they're able to make me care about these people. Vision, Hawkeye, Loki, Winter Soldier, Falcon, you know? I never really, I guess also they weren't really in it that much for me to fall in love with them.
Yeah.
But these shows did incredible. And especially Loki. I'm not a fan of villains. You can realistically make someone an anti-hero. I'm like, okay, but I'm just not a fan of like following the bad guys. You know, that's yeah. So when we got the show, I really wasn't looking forward to it, but I was just blown away by it. Even everything from the story to the cast and even the guest cast who only show up for an episode or 2. And Owen Wilson is in there. Owen Wilson's like the second lead, kind of.
Yeah.
I loved him in this. You know, I was kind of afraid, like, oh man, MCU is gonna waste Owen Wilson on a show. It's like, no, like he was perfect and he had a killer mustache. Wow. Yeah. I can't wait for season 2, whenever that is, next year or the year after. I don't know when we're getting that.
I have no idea.
There's so much Marvel content right now. I don't even think Marvel knows when we're getting Loki season 2.
Yeah. It's up there though. It's
going to have to give at some point.
Yeah.
Like every time something comes out and it's hugely successful, they're like, oh, we're going to give you more. There's yet to be a project where they haven't given us more. Except maybe the Eternals. I don't know. They kind of hinted that was it, but
well, we at least know that they're not getting a second movie, but that doesn't mean that they won't show up in other stuff, you know.
Right. So, yeah.
So here's hoping.
One of my favorite scenes of the year was on the train in Loki, where they're partying and then he starts singing, and I don't even know what language that is technically.
I don't know.
But it's very like it's a real language. It's very Norse. It's Norwegian. So he sings in Norwegian. It's just a beautiful like lyrics. We can't tell. You have to go look it up. But it's such a nice, quiet moment for that character of all characters, Loki. It's so good, and the accent was really spot on. So good on Tom Hiddleston. I know a lot of people who are fans of that musical from Norway were saying like, "Oh, he got it down. Like he said it right. He sung it right." It's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. I mean, it's quick. It's a couple seconds, but I'm like, it added a sense of I don't know. It's just a different side of Loki, and the person he's with, who it'll be a spoiler if I even tell you who he's with in that scene. But yeah, it was a great moment. I loved it. I love that show, Loki.
Check it out.
I even love the theme, the little theme song. It's super quick, but I'm just like, oh, give me more.
Oh yeah.
Timey-wimey space time shenanigans. I love it.
All right. Now here it is, down to the wire.
I don't know what you're gonna say.
Top episodes, they're top shows.
I'm excited. Here we go.
Number one favorite shows. Speaking of timey-wimey and vast, grand expanses of space and time, the show has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
If anything, slightly more akin to Lost, in that it's about a group of people trapped on an island. We're all going through some strange changes, some strange journeys, really getting down to the crux of who they are as people, what makes them tick. And if you let it, it's going to break your heart. I'm talking about what is quite possibly Mike Flanagan's masterpiece, his opus, Midnight Mass. The second the show opened with a Neil Diamond song tracing over the events of what was a horrific car accident, and the drunk driver is alive and the teenager in the opposite car is dead, staring at him from across the street. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was instantly hooked. And even just that little snippet isn't even like the most gruesome part of the show, but this isn't a show that is meant to scare. It's like there are a few jump scares here and there, but it's not meant to like be immersed in the grit, in the scare, all that stuff. If anything, it's more so calling out what is scary within, not necessarily within organized religion, but in how the emptiness of a person who is open, who has no other choice than to be open to anything else, to some form of higher being, how that can be both the most beautiful thing and the most horrifying thing at the same time. And it's how people, it's just how different people try to rationalize their belief, and how sometimes that it just goes horrifically wrong. The best intentions have some of the worst consequences. It's a fantastic series. I believe it's only 8 episodes. It's 7 or 8 episodes. It's all on Netflix. It's not getting a second season because it doesn't need one. This is it. It's the story is there. It's like a book. It's like reading a book. But yeah, look, Mike Flanagan came out swinging with The Haunting of Hill House, which is ghost stories, and ghost stories again telling you that it's not about the scare, it's about the lingering. It's about being haunted. That's what's terrifying. It's about having unfinished business that you can't explain. Midnight Mass is about reckoning with who you are as a person and how your choice affects everyone, the community. And this little island is so full of people that are so full of life and character, and their lives are irrevocably changed by one person's selfish act, selfless act. It's kind of hard to say. Has the best intentions, has the worst consequences.
Yeah.
It definitely delves into the supernatural, and that is literally all I can say about it, because anything else is a spoiler again. But yeah, it's a fantastic series. Highly recommend it. Even if you're not a fan of horror, I would say give it a shot. I would say at least watch the first episode, and if you're like me, you get to the end of the episode and you're going to be like, I have to know how this ends. And yeah, I think it'll be worth it.
Oh man, Midnight Mass, Sammy's number one. My number one pick, I'm going the opposite direction. I'm going magical. I'm going with Arcane.
Ooh, okay.
So Arcane, it's on Netflix. It's an animated series, only 9 episodes. And it is based on the League of Legends video game. Now, hold up. I know hear a bunch of people just slammed on the
unfollowed.
brakes.
Yeah, they unfollowed us.
Unfollowing. They're like, look, November 1st, I knew nothing about League of Legends. Now, mid-December, I'm so immersed. You do not have to know anything about the video games to fall in love with the show. That's exactly what happened with me. In fact, I think it's better because a lot of people watching the show, myself included, didn't see a lot of the twists coming, whereas people play the video game did. But yeah, it's this fantasy world. It's this magical world, and it's basically, this is what I think is, I don't know what you would call it. I would call it like Arcana punk. You know, this is a world of magic, but it's really the story of the underclass really trying to find a place in the world, stand on their own, not wanting to be crushed by the upper class. But the characters come from all sides, all different backgrounds. It's just so crazy. So it's insane. Like, the story's great. The acting is phenomenal. Music's great. Soundtrack is great. But the thing that is pulling everyone there is like, yes, it's the human stories, but it's also the animation. Like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. The closest thing I could compare it to would be Into the Spider-Verse. Like, what Into the Spider-Verse did for comic books, they made a movie that looked like a comic book. They just, I don't know, this magical world, it's the way it's animated is just so beautiful and very punk. Like, it's mixed. I think it's a mix of computer graphics, 2D graphics, hand drawn. It's just everything. Animators all over are like losing their mind over this show because they're like, this is a show. We're getting this on a week to week basis. You know, it's just incredible. And they already confirmed season 2 is on its way. They've already been working on it. I'm not even gonna get into the plot because it's best to go in knowing nothing, but it's a story about rebellion and survival, but also like innovation and progress. You know, if you want your society to evolve and progress, you have to make sure it's doing that for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's a very relevant show, but it pulls no punches. It's not kid friendly at all. And I guess the story really, it follows the story of two sisters and how the world kind of splits them apart, brings them back together, and how they kind of fall onto like different lines, battle lines, essentially. Without giving too much away, there's a lot of focus on, I guess, the mental side of it. If you've listened to our show, you know how much I love Harley Quinn, and I'm really questioning it now because I think as a society, we've kind of we fall in love with that character Harley Quinn, but what we're doing is really like glamorizing the crazy side of her. We love her because she's crazy, she's unhinged, she lives by her own rules, but it all stems from her trauma, and because she was a victim. And now, as collectively as fans and as people, we've decided we no longer want her as a villain. We want her as an anti-hero because of those things, which I think that's good, and that's good for that character. Arcane does the exact opposite, whereas you fall in love with these characters and you see what they've been through and what they're going through, and it makes you understand where they're coming from. So, of course, I would love to see some of these characters, one in particular, be an anti-hero. That's never going to happen because we're watching the downfall of a person and the descent into someone becoming a villain. But you can't really argue with them because you see why it's happened. You see what's going on in this character's head, and it's like, oh wow, yeah. It's just it's crazy. It's mind bending. I have to say, I think it's my favorite piece of animated work. I loved it more than Into the Spider-Verse, and I gave Into the Spider-Verse 5 stars. That was a 5-star movie.
Wow.
Yeah, this show's changed a lot of things just in this past month and a half. The way I think of D&D, it's not D&D related, but the way I think of Dungeons and Dragons and my storytelling and character development, this show like kicked in the door to my mind and said, hello.
Wow.
Yeah. And Netflix did a really clever thing. They instead of just dropping all the episodes at once, they dropped them in 3s. So this show, it's 9 episodes, and it's really made into 3-episode acts. So I kind of tell people that going in, because I know people like to just binge, and like that might not be the best route to take. Do 1 or 2 episodes at a time, but you got to remember, like, each 3 episodes are like a different act. So you don't want to be like, oh, I'm just going to jump into the next one. You're like, oh, this is something completely different, Yeah. So you have to really just experience it for what it is. It's fantastic. I don't like overhyping things, but like I can't, not overhype this thing. Like, everyone everywhere is praising this show because animation style, and in the same way we were talking about Into the Spider-Verse, like I think this is going to change the future of animation, and I think it's the same way with the show.
Dang.
So the voice actors are fantastic. Ella Purnell is great. I think this is Haley Steinfeld's best role. I hate that Hollywood keeps going to these A-listers to do animated voices. I'm like, look, because we got really good voice actors who can do this, who can do a better job for less. But in this case, no, like Haley Steinfeld did fantastic. I think this is her best role yet, and I can't wait to see more of her with this character. So yeah, I recommend it. It's a blast. It's fun. You'll laugh. You'll cry. I think this show made me cry more than any other show this year.
Oh wow!
And I'm an emotional dude, but I don't cry for everything. Like it takes a bit to get me to cry, especially for a TV show. But yeah, this show really hit hard. And yeah, I think definitely in the world we're living in right now, it's a good show to watch. But yeah, that was my number one.
Dang.
Arcane on Netflix.
All right.
Well, we did it, man. We did our top shows.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah, I am too. So it wasn't really a Christmas episode, but I had fun. Oh, we should have been drinking.
Oh yeah, we should have been drinking. It was a Christmas episode because Santa came by to say hi.
That's true. Santa came by and
he told us that this was his favorite podcast. And honestly, Santa, that's my Christmas gift. That's the best Christmas gift. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And we have all this, Christmas music playing right now. Mm-hmm. And we got to spend time together. What more can you ask for, right?
Exactly.
So
world peace be damned.
Yeah. But no, seriously, guys, everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us for the past, for the year, but also a little over a year, kind of year and a half, really. Mm-hmm. It's been fun. It's been wild. And I think we're going to do some cool stuff in 2022. We're going to change up some things for the better, I think, as far as scheduling goes, and throw in a little variety and some spice into our episodes next year.
Lots of cool stuff coming your way.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think it's going to be pretty good. Yeah. So as always, hit us up at # Legacies. You can always find me on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Yes. And you can find me at the North Pole. If you survive the journey, I'll make you some hot chocolate. I hope you were good this year because I will be stopping by if you were. And don't forget, you should subscribe and check out the Patreon for these two boys' new show coming out called The Adventures of Cinnamon. Whoa, Santa, hang on a second. Hang on, we haven't announced that yet. I'm sorry. Spoilers. All right. See you next year. Well, he went out the same window. All right. Well, all right, everyone. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Mm-hmm. We'll see you on the other side. So until next year, get lost.